The BRICS agenda is organized by the country that is leading the meeting, that has the chairmanship. Last year was Brazil, this year is India. And so the agenda will be built by India. We don't discuss the agenda before it starts. What I heard from Prime Minister Modi, he has the intent to mobilize all India, have discussions around the country in India, so that we can have civil society participation from India in the decisions that were going to be discussed at the BRICS. So this is very good. In Brazil, we had a social BRICS meeting. We called the grassroots movements to participate. The BRICS is a formation process of a very strong group, almost half of humanity, half of the world GDP. What we need is to have the awareness that 10 members of the BRICS participate in the G20. 10 are members of the G20. Now President Macron wants to mix BRICS with the G7. And so I know that it's already invited for the next G7. Prime Minister Modi already invited to South Africa, and I am invited for the next G7. 3 BRICS members to participate in the G7. Well, we're going to start to understand that we don't have to fight. We don't need G7, G4, G20, and so on. We are moving forward so that we can build one group. Why did we create the G20? The G20 was because of the global financial crisis in 2008. Why was the BRICS created? It was because of the meetings that we had with China, and then the meetings that we had with Russia. So we are showing our face to a group that was marginalized, that is the so-called people that come from the global south. Now we're showing our face to the rest of the world, and we created a bank, the New Development Bank, that's from BRICS. So everything that comes from the BRICS is very new. I know that the United States has a certain unrest vis-a-vis the BRICS. But their unrest is with China, not with the BRICS. Since we don't want Cold War anymore, what we want is to strengthen our group, the BRICS. Who knows that our group, once strengthened, will join the G20, and one day maybe we'll have just one group. We'll have a G30 instead of having BRICS and G7. We don't need so many meetings like that, and so I believe that we're moving towards that direction to have a more fair international trade. One of these days they asked me here in India in an interview if we're advocating for to create a currency for the BRICS. No, we don't want to build a currency for the BRICS. No one ever advocated for that. What we actually want is to discuss the fund so that Brazil can have trade with India. Is it necessary to use the dollar, or we can use our own domestic currencies so that Brazil can have trade with China? Is it necessary to use the dollar, or we can use the Chinese currency and the Brazilian currency? Our finance ministers, our Federal Reserve and central banks are discussing to find a solution for this matter. It is not necessary. And so I think that we do have the condition that it's not necessary, that the U.S. do not enjoy that in the first moment. Okay. I didn't expect that the U.S. would agree with this idea of the BRICS. But let's discuss the matter. That's it. Just discuss it. Let's have a debate and see if we can manage to do something that is more fair and penalize less, especially the smaller countries. This is the idea, and that's why I am convinced that the BRICS is a way for us to reach a geopolitical balance in the planet Earth. And it's a formation process. Not everybody trusts in everybody yet on the same things, on the same issues, or believe in the same issue. But this is a process. And in this process, I think we're going to build a bloc that will be highly representative and very good to discuss economic policies, to discuss peace. What we're lacking is that last year, $2 trillion and $400 billion were spent with weapons, with arms manufactured. The countries that manufacture weapons are the ones that are member of the UN Security Council, permanent members. The ones that go to war are almost full members, permanent members of the UN Security Council, and it doesn't discuss any of this matter. They don't gather, so it's very difficult to go on like this. It's very difficult. How can you keep peace on the planet Earth if the permanent members of the UN Security Council, that should be the spokespersons for peace, are involved in war themselves? So we have to change. And the BRICS can make the difference. And I hope that here in India, we'll have a better BRICS than the one we had in Brazil, that I think it was the best of all the BRICS. But I hope that in India it will be even better, the BRICS meeting, much stronger than the one we had in Brazil last year.
And now, Tiago Yates from Global TV. Mr. President, I'd just like to clarify a statement that you've just made. The American president has maybe his most controversial policy is to hunt, immigrants, illegal, undocumented, documented immigrants, temporary visas. This is a controversy in the U.S. that has led to deaths. Even President Trump considers all these immigrants criminals. You said to him that in the conversation with President Trump, you could arrange to receive criminals from Brazil or whoever. No, you didn't. No, it wasn't actually like that. No. You said, let's talk. No, if I accept you to ask the question in the way they've asked, it sounds as if I've said that, and I didn't. Okay, for President Trump, they're criminals, but you mentioned about having criminals from fuel, those who have committed crimes. No, I don't receive them. I want to arrest them. We blocked 250 million liters of gasoline on 5 ships. We delivered this to Petrobras. This person lives in Miami. We forwarded the picture to President Trump, his name, his house, and we want this person in Brazil because we want to fight organized crime. So deliver this person to us. But it's not receive, it's arrest. Okay, so this is what I wanted to clarify. So I'd like you to explain this a little bit more. How could this cooperation take place? Have you discussed this with President Trump? Or, we have the Federal Police Director with us. Is this something that has been designed as a proposition to be made at the table? No, look, we haven't had a specific meeting on this. Okay? I have talked about this over the phone 3 times with President Trump. We have sent to him a list of the things that we would like to do. We have sent him documents from the Inland Revenue Services. We have sent him pictures, names of people. We have created an organization for fighting narco traffic and organized crime in the Amazon region to fight contraband, smuggling on the borders, organized crime, with the organization of all countries that have borders with Brazil. What I said to President Trump is that we are willing to work with the U.S. in fighting narco trafficking, weapons trafficking, money laundering, anything that can, put those corrupted overlords in jail. We're ready to work towards this. And these guys, they don't live in the favelas, okay? They live in condos in the, wealthiest part of Brazil and the wealthiest part of the U.S. And he knows of some names that we have sent him. So in this conversation with President Trump, I would like to touch on this. This is what I'm going to bring with me, my federal police, and then they can, bring, CIA, their FBI. I'm going to bring my, Justice Department, my prosecutors. I'm going to, IRS, for him to bring his, for us to put an end to this, because we are willing to fight organized crime. If there's something that we need to work together is to fight organized crime, because this is a multinational, highly sophisticated industry. They have a reach in football, in the judiciary branch, in politics, in, the business community. They have reached everywhere in humanity. So I'm very optimistic in this meeting for us to make everything very transparent so that everybody knows what we want to do. Okay, we're going to go to the last question. Nelson Guisado from the UOL portal. Good morning, Mr. President. in relation to the U.S. tariffs that have been done away. Does that give more weight to Brazil while negotiating with Trump in relation to the sovereignty of South American countries, recovering Brazil's regional leadership? And are you relieved that you have not actually signed an agreement with President Trump, like other countries have done, like India, for instance? I mean, I'm relieved of not having rushed to do things, in a rush. But from the start I said this. I mean, look, we created a commission of negotiators in Brazil with Minister of Finance Fernando Haddad, the Vice President Gerardo Alckmin, and my Chancellor Mauro Vieira. So 3 high-level, authorities in my administration which were put at the US's disposal to negotiate. And what I noticed is that it's very difficult to negotiate because apparently on the other side they are not really that well into negotiation. Mauro Vieira. So 3 high-level, authorities in my administration which were put at the US's disposal to negotiate. And what I noticed is that it's very difficult to negotiate because apparently on the other side they are not really that well into negotiate because they think that President Trump solves things with Twitter, and things only moved forward a little bit when I personally talked to President Trump, because he gave us his telephone number, so we have a direct contact. So sometimes, I think that there are people that don't want us to work out in the agreements, and this is why I want to talk to Trump personally. Sit at a table and talk to him, in detail about the importance of the civilized relation between Brazil and the US. And of course, I mean, I can't measure or provide an opinion on the US Supreme Court's decision. I mean, that's not my place. We can't do that. I mean, somebody appealed. The Supreme Court made their decision. Of course, he's made some other measures. Somebody else is going to appeal. There's going to have another decision. For us, what we think is that, I mean, there was a relief for many countries that had, 50, 40% tariffs. But for everyone now, it's going to be 15%. So I am convinced that in the sort of Brazil-US relationship will go back to normalcy after our conversation. I mean, we're interested, they're interested. If they, impose tariffs, some of our products, you're going to end up having inflation in the US, and this is going to be to the prejudice of the American people, and he knows this. And I mean, Brazil doesn't want to be a Latin American leader. We don't want to be the leader. What we want is to have a respectful relationship in Latin America, because we have decided that we live in a zone of peace. We haven't got nuclear weapons. I mean, we want to live in peace. We just want to grow economically and, generate jobs and improve the lives of our people. And I want to discuss this with him. What is the role of the U.S. in South America? What is, their role? Is it to help or threaten? For instance, they're now threatening Iran. So we need to, discuss how to stop this. The world needs, calm. The world doesn't need more turbulence. We need peace. So let's, spend our energy to eradicate hunger in the world, to eradicate violence against women, which is growing in every country in the world. So this is our call, as it were. So let's look at the good things that we can actually come to a solution to, and let's leave war aside. I think that if it is possible for us to arrive in an agreement, it's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for South America. It's going to be good for Latin America. It'll be good for the world. We need to show signs of peace today. Today is the moment when we have had the highest number of conflicts in the world after the Second World War. There's all sort of African nations undergoing coup d'etats with the threat of civil war, revolutions, and there isn't a multilateral organization, an institution, that should be the UN, to try and bring a stop to all of this. So we need to be worried about, creating this. So this is what I worry about, and I think that we're going to solve this. We're going to find a solution. I can assure you something. I believe in something called negotiation very much. You know that this sort of thing, the story about the chemistry between me and Trump. I do believe very much that us human beings, we do have a chemical relation. You shaking someone's hand, looking into each other's eyes, for you to be able to talk directly to the people. And if you do that, you can solve any problem. And I do really believe that. And actually, I've been doing this all my life. And I want to continue to do that. And I want to have this meeting with Trump. That's it, really. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I am off to Korea now, and then to the UAE. I'd like to thank all of you